When I drove the first prototype, Lars Kern told me on our cool-down lap, I thought it was a waste of time. If I were in charge of the program that day, I would have cancelled it. That's the guy who just set new production EV lap records at Laguna Seca and the Nürburgring in the car we've just finished lapping, the 2025 Porsche Taycan Turbo GT. Safe to say, he's had a change of heart. Of course, I was not in charge, so they went back and kept working on it. Each time they called me out to drive it again, it was better, Kern said. Every time they made changes to the software, it was faster and it drove better. They never said no to anything if it would make the car perform better. Like when Kern asked for a paddle shifter that activated the attack mode, rather than a button on the drive mode dial that was hard to reach while trying to set a lap record. Now you pull the right paddle to engage the 10-second overboost mode and dump an extra 160 horsepower, 120 kilowatts, into the motors. The trick is remembering not to pull the left paddle under braking because that's where Porsche relocated the regenerative braking control on the Turbo GT. In other Taycans, it's in a menu on the upper center screen. With that kind of extra power on tap, you actually feel it. The Taycan Turbo GT is already absurdly quick, but 160 horsepower is more than enough to make a visceral difference even when you already have the pedal on the floor. In a lot of street cars, that kind of feature doesn't do enough to make a tangible difference in lap times or even give you enough butterflies in your stomach to bother. But in this car, it matters. Even better, you can use it again almost immediately, as it doesn't require a long cooldown time between activations like most of these systems do. How much power, exactly? How does 777 horsepower and 855 lb-ft sound? Not enough. Good news, because with launch control activated those numbers jump to a ridiculously powerful 1019 horsepower and 988 lb-ft. Porsche says that much juice will shove the 2.5-ton EV to 60 miles per hour in 2.1 seconds and through the quarter mile in 9.4 seconds. Past instrumented testing has shown Porsche's numbers to typically be conservative, though when they're this low there's very little room for improvement. Even if they're dead on, they'd make the Taycan Turbo GT one of the quickest production cars in the world, joining the Tesla Model S Plaid and Lucid Air Sapphire in the 9-second club. If you've never driven a 9-second car, prepare yourself before trying to launch one for the first time. The feeling of having your guts rearranged while the world blurs before your eyes is enough to make even an experienced car reviewer babble obscenities while hanging on for dear life. Stay in it long enough, and the car will hit a top speed of 190 miles per hour. Thank goodness for the Taycan Turbo GT's 10-piston front brake calipers gripping on 16.5-inch carbon ceramic rotors, backed by up to 400 kilowatts of regenerative braking power. Track drivers will always want more power and more brakes, but both feel reasonably sufficient in this car, and the handoff from regenerative to mechanical braking is completely imperceptible. You don't think much about the fact that this car is an EV when you're lapping it. You also don't think about what Porsche's newly developed dynamic tech duo is doing to help the car perform the way it does. The new Active Ride electro-hydraulic suspension system is standard on all Turbo GTs and uses separate motors on each shock absorber to counteract pitch, dive, and roll instantaneously. Active Ride is so powerful the car doesn't need physical anti-roll bars, even when you're pitching it around a corner at triple-digit speeds. From the driver's seat, though, all you can feel is a car that's remarkably flat in all conditions. Cars this heavy don't usually feel like this. The presence of the also standard rear steering is entirely undetectable, as well, though you will detect how much nimbler the car feels than the old Taycan, which already handled quite well. We're especially happy to report that we didn't detect the weird, overactive behavior we noticed from the rear steering in the standard Taycans while traversing long, sweeping corners in the Turbo GT. In case the incredible performance you get from the garden variety Taycan Turbo GT isn't enough, for the exact same price, seriously, you can add the vaunted Weissach package that strips weight and increases downforce. Porsche's specs claim it saves 165 pounds over a regular Turbo GT, though that includes the carbon fiber bucket seats we don't get in America. Porsche reps tell us the company is hard at work on a next-generation carbon fiber seat that will be legal in the US. This is no wing and sticker package. In fact, it's about as hardcore as track packages get in that it makes the car significantly less useful for anything else by jettisoning the rear seat entirely and replacing it with a shallow storage compartment with a cloth cover. The sunroof that's optional for standard Turbo GTs is gone. replaced by a full carbon fiber roof. Rear speakers are also gone, as is the driver's side charging port. Even the remaining passenger side charging port door is manually operated. Out back, a fixed carbon fiber wing takes over for the power-adjustable setup fitted to the standard car. Also available, new Pirelli P0 Trofeo RS tires, an even stickier version of the already superlative Trofeo R. If you've ever questioned if a track package like the Weissach makes enough difference for the average driver to notice, a couple laps in each will settle that real quick. Around southern Spain's Circuito Monteblanco, it only takes one particularly tricky high-speed corner to prove the Weissach package's worth. It's a blind, uphill, off-camber right-hander with the apex right at its peak. The difference between how each model handles that corner is night and day. In the standard Turbo GT, cresting the hill with your foot down and some steering in the wheel is exciting. The car gets light and four-wheel drifts ever so slightly toward the thankfully enormous runoff on the outside of the track. Run through that same corner in the Turbo GT Weissach package, and it's still exciting, but it's as though the car is nailed down to the track all the way through. In the standard car, the limit of cornering speed is more apparent, but in the Weissach car, you can add a little more speed every lap as you figure out the line. If you're going to track your roughly 5,000-pound, four-door EV, this no-cost package is worth every dollar it doesn't cost you. Two other things to know about the track package. First, Porsche is effectively daring you here. Customers like to say they'd buy the Weissach package on other models if it weren't so expensive, so now it's a no-cost upgrade. Time for everyone to not put their money where their mouth is. Second, neither the Turbo GT itself nor its Weissach package were developed by Porsche's GT division, which creates the likes of the 911 GT3 RS, Cayman GT4 RS, and their respective Weissach packages. This, and the fact that at Laguna Seca the Taycan Turbo GT Weissach beat the lap time of the mighty 911 GT2 RS are reportedly not sitting well with the GT division crew. We'll see what they come up with in response.